2025. Therefore, happy Thanksgiving to all my Americans and non-Americans who celebrate it too. I know you're out there. Much love from Israel, where there's a lot happening vis-a-vis the war we have going on over here between Israel and Hamas and the current state of the ceasefire, and when we will actually see things move to phase two. As I've spoken out in recent videos and told you guys, the Hamas has no intention of getting to phase two, but we'll get into that in a minute. Into what is likely to happen next, as well as Ukraine and Russia and the ongoing attempts at brokering a ceasefire and even a peace deal between Russia and Ukraine to end the war formally and have it be settled. And then, of course, the pre-Thanksgiving Bitcoin bump we saw yesterday on Bitcoin and altcoins, which if you were trading low time frames, no big surprise, even though the downside was looking pretty good yesterday, there was some nice move to the downside, certainly if you're scalping it pre-market open. And then it had a nice little reversal and went back to the upside, which again, if you're trading on low time frames, fantastic. If you know how to manage risk, that's wonderful. It means you don't stay in positions for a long time. And if it goes against you, you just get the hell out of the trade, right? No reason to stay in a losing trade. No reason to be in a losing trade, right? If you're using leading information like that, which we provide for you at Alpha Trading, then you'd have that leading information and you'd know exactly when to get in and when to get out of those trades, which is exactly what the indicators told you to do yesterday during the live streams, even, right? When we said, oh, it's looking to the downside for now, and it went down, right? Even when it was going up, we said, this is an area to take profit because it's going to go down in these wild candles. That's exactly what it did. We've been said this is the kind of trading volatility traders love because, hello there, because volatility is what makes the markets go round, right? Say money makes the world go round. Well, it's actually volatility, because you don't need to necessarily be trading actual money. Okay. Can I pass it? Okay, thank you. So the point is, yesterday's volatility was really like a gift from the gods of trading. If you know how to trade low time frame volatility, if you don't and you want to know, you can learn for free. You can get free tools to do it, and you can do that by just going for free to alphatradinghq.com/discord. That's the Alpha Trading Discord link. Go there, enter the Discord server, which again is free to enter, free to ask for the volatility starter kit. We'll give those tools to you all for free, and you can learn how to trade volatility, probabilities, and statistics completely for free. And if you're a serious trader, or you'd like to be, and you really want to put your mind to it, I highly suggest, I really recommend, especially this time of year, while we have our holiday shopping season sale going on, that you check out the channel called the Shop Alpha channel, for the simple reason that in the Shop Alpha channel, you'll see the deals that we have going on for the holidays. You can actually get our free pro tools with tutoring that can actually help you ramp up the amount of time, help you basically decrease the amount of time it takes you to go from zero to hero, basically, total neophyte, total noob in the volatility trading game, to somebody who actually understands how to do it. And you can learn from the best. You can learn from me, from Bilbo. We don't just sell off, certification licenses. So it's not like just anyone can do this, right? We don't just allow anyone to teach this stuff, at least not under our brand name. I mean, there might be other people teaching it because a lot of people have learned from us, but we don't certify anybody. That way, you're learning from literally one of the co-founders of Alpha Trading, and that's for a very simple reason. Look, we're really not here to sell you indicators, even though I've just told you about the indicators. This is like the only time of year we really do that. And occasionally there's a holiday here or there, like a federal holiday, and so we'll tell you, like, for a day, like, hey, sell today, sell tomorrow, through the weekend or whatever. We don't make a big deal out of it. But those are still very nice sales as well. And frankly, even when there isn't a sale, the prices are insane. But like, we're not in the business really of selling subscriptions. We don't have thousands of customers. That's not who we intend to be. And our subscriptions are not expensive. They're just meant to be a barrier to entry, so that freeloaders, don't just come in and take all of our goods. But we do give away something for free, which is an amazing set of tools that you can actually learn to use, and you can actually learn, not just learn, you can actually use to trade with. Like, those are the initial tools we originally had when we started Alpha Trading, because those are the ones we first built, right? And I say the greater we, meaning the co-founders, right? We got a brain trust that is amazing at figuring out the math and figuring out how to build the indicators, and then figuring out how to test them and figuring out how to verify them, implementing them, uploading all the good stuff that we need to know. Our team is really amazing, in my opinion. And small as we are, we have built what I think is the far and away the best set of tools for any retail trader to learn how to trade a better way. That's what I often call it, a better way to trade. Alpha Trading, a better way to trade. And that's because, in my view, it really is the single best system for trading available to retail traders, like, bottom line, right? Anyway, so like I said, you can go get the private tutoring. That will save you a ton of time and get you up to speed on how to trade this stuff. It will also get you access to our tools for an entire year, right? In addition to having the sessions with the founder, who will actually teach you how to learn this stuff, not just give you a bunch of videos to watch, but actually basically do a lot of hand-holding as you learn online in sessions on Discord or whatever works. And on top of that, you actually get to message us, meaning you have access to our, direct messages on the Discord, right? What's even cooler is if you're one of the first 50 people to buy either the private tutoring between now and the end of the year, you don't just get it for 20% off. You actually can also choose to not get the tutoring, and you can instead just get the Pro Trader tools, in which case that is a whopping 30% off, right? So the tutoring is like, I think, $2,000 in total for like all the tutoring and a year off, a year of the services, of the tools, etc. And that's like $2,000, which includes like 12 lessons at least, usually one-on-one. Sometimes it's more. But yeah, usually, and then, a solid 12 session program. And if you don't want the tutoring, then you can get just the Pro Trader tools for 30% off, which comes to $914, which is ridiculously cheap. It's like less than a gallon of gas a day, right? Less than, if you were to buy just an average coffee at Starbucks for 5 months, every day, 1 cup of coffee, you're spending more money than our program, our software costs you, or access to our indicators cost you for a whole year. And if you know how to trade with our indicators, it's literally a money printing machine, right? If you know what you're doing. Obviously, if you're losing your trades, you don't know what you're doing, because you shouldn't be losing the majority of your trades. When you trade with our tools, you should be winning the vast majority of your trades. If you're not, you're doing something very wrong, because our tools are incredibly powerful. They are calculators that just work, as opposed to other tools, which are all based on theory and conjecture, and you have to constantly doubt them and counter trade them, etc., etc. With our tools, you just trade properly using the tools and methods that we've developed, and it just works, right? That's how it goes. That doesn't mean you're going to win every single trade, right? You can always lose some trades, but you should be winning the vast, overwhelming amount of your trades. So check it out. Go to the Shop Alpha channel again, alphatradinghq.com/Discord. Now, I want to jump over. Oh, yeah, and I forgot to mention just one last thing. If you are one of the first 50 people to get this deal between now and the end of the year, either the Pro Traders tools just by themselves for a year, or the private tutoring package. If you're one of the first 50 people to get that between now and the end of the year, you get to keep 3 of the Pro Traders tools that you want for life, and you've got all year to pick them. You don't have to pick them right away when you sign up. Right? You got all year to practice, check out which tools work best for you, etc., and pick 3 that you want to keep for life. Now, of course, if you're a full-time trader, 3 is not enough necessarily, or probably. It might be, but for most people, it probably wouldn't be. And so, you're going to probably want to re-up next year anyway if you're printing money like hotcakes with our tools. But if you just want to, learn to trade, do it kind of, seriously, intensely for 1 year, and then after that, just kind of trade occasionally and with less information, but still very strong information with those 3 free indicators and all the indicators that we give you in the volatility starter pack together, that's already a very nice set of information that you could certainly trade with. So again, be one of the first 50 people to buy the program, the access to the indicators on TradingView, by the way, which is like the world's largest site for charting assets. And you will get 3 indicators for life. But that's only now between now and the end of the year for the first 50. That's it. After that, no more. That offer's gone. So, okay, next topic, Ukraine and Russia. What is happening with Ukraine and Russia? Well, and why don't I talk about Ukraine and Russia more? I'll address that first. I don't talk about Ukraine and Russia more, not because I don't care about it, and not because I don't know about it, but because there are many amazing people in Ukraine, and by the way, also in Russia, who cover this topic, and there are many people elsewhere who are very familiar with this topic and have already covered it very well for a long time. And I don't really want to do a lot of pontificating and opining on the Russia-Ukraine war situation, because I know it's very complex in one sense, but it's also very simple in another. And I come at it from the point of view where I have my opinions on it that are pretty straightforward. And I know it's just going to stir up a lot of controversy if I say whatever I say. So I don't mind that, but I'm really not here to stir up controversy about the Ukraine-Russia war. But right now, what we're seeing, just as a matter of fact, objectively, is we're seeing Ukraine basically heard an offer for a peace deal that was, an American offer for the Ukrainians to basically accept losing some land and whatever, having some other clauses in the agreement. But overall, a loss is a loss for a country that's been invaded. And it's not a position that Ukraine wants to take if they can avoid it. So Ukraine respectfully told President Trump, thank you for the offer. Of course, we appreciate it very much. We want to see an end to the fighting. We want to see an end to the war. And of course, we need to take the European opinion under, advisement. We need to bring it to them and see what they say. And why would he say that? President Trump, who is ostensibly the most powerful man in the world, as people like to say about the President of the United States. Well, the reason he said that, very simply, is that Trump doesn't really have any leverage over him at this point because of the cutbacks in military aid to Ukraine from the United States and the increase in military aid to Ukraine by the Europeans. So basically at this point, the United States has a relatively small role compared to what it was earlier in the war. And the Europeans have a relatively large role compared to what it was earlier in the war, before Trump was in office, etc. Before all those deals went through, didn't go through, went through again, didn't go through again, whatever, on and on, back and forth. And so effectively, America is now seeing the effects of losing leverage over a partner in a wartime. You wanted something from Russia, right? Trump or America's government or whatever wanted something from Russia and didn't get it. Why? Because America doesn't have any leverage over Ukraine to force them to do what Russia wants in exchange for what America wants from Russia. It's that simple. Hello there. What country? I'm in Israel, bro. And I talk about geopolitics, and I talk about tech and crypto and marketing and all these kind of AI and stuff like that. So this is kind of a mishmash video where I talk about multiple things, because I like to drive the YouTube algorithm crazy. I think it's a silly thing to try to pigeonhole people into one topic at a time. Sorry, but human beings are not all cut like that. We're not all single issue people. Some of us know a thing or two about a thing or two or more. And that's who I am, and that's what I do, among other things. So if you like this, by all means, please, I would love your support. If you would just click like, subscribe, hit the bell notification, leave a comment, share this video. It takes 5 seconds. Whatever you can do, help me reach more people through the algorithm gods of YouTube, which I've, of course, jokingly call them the algorithm gods. They're not actually gods, yes. I know some people have recently misunderstood me when I said the algo gods. It's just a phrase. It's just a turn of phrase used by YouTube. But yeah, so, that's the problem with losing leverage. And that's an exact same problem, which, by the way, will happen when America loses leverage over Israel. How do we do that? Well, I'll get to that in a second. That's also the same problem that Hamas is about to have when they realize they've lost leverage. They kind of already realize it, but they're still living in denial. Now, they still have 2 dead bodies, presumably, one Israeli and one Thai national who's never returned, despite the agreement between Thailand and the Hamas that was carried out, almost at the start of the war back in 2023, early 2024, somewhere around then. I forget if that was around November or December of 2023, early 2024. But either way, they've been holding a dead hostage for a couple of years. They never returned him. They obviously know where he is, even though they say they don't. If you believe that Hamas or Palestinian Islamic Jihad or whoever doesn't know where their most valuable asset in all of Gaza is, I mean, you're not just stupid. It's worse than that. You should really get yourself checked out, because there's no way that anybody who needs to know that information in Gaza wouldn't know that. They are literally, those 2 last dead bodies in Gaza, they are in fact dead. Those 2 last hostages in Gaza, presumed to be the last 2 hostages taken from Israel on October 7th. They are literally the last leverage that Hamas has. And it's dead bodies. So yes, the families want their bodies back. But this country's not going to be held back from overthrowing Hamas because of 2 dead bodies. I hope you understand that. Like, it's painful for the families of the dead hostages, dead or alive, right? It's painful for them. But what's even more painful is knowing that Hamas is basically going to try to do this again and again and again and again. And for sure, some of, if not many of, the prisoners that Israel released in exchange for hostages will be participating or will participate in future attacks on Israel. Like, you need to understand that. So from Israel's point of view, releasing any of those terrorists is endangering Israeli lives, because it literally is. That's what do you think, Yahya Sinwar was. The guy who literally masterminded October 7th was once a Palestinian prisoner in an Israeli prison who received medical treatment that saved his life from Israeli doctors. And he actually not only orchestrated and masterminded that attack, but one of his attackers, one of his, the terrorists operating on his behalf that entered Israel and butchered people, killed one of the children of one of the doctors that saved Yahya Sinwar's life. So Israel is not exactly in the business of, giving people infinite chances, right? Yeah, we give chances, we give chances, we give chances. We're very giving and chance-giving people. And it may seem like infinite chances with the Palestinians that we're still dealing with them 77 years after we've already defeated them, when they didn't call themselves Palestinians, when they were just Arabs. They were just called Arabs. They called themselves that. They didn't call themselves Palestinian. The people that did call themselves, by the way, Palestinian, between like 1921 or 1917, even in 1948, and even before 1917, going back to at least the time of Herzl's declaration in 1896, right? Going back to around that time, the Jews living here would call themselves Jewish Palestinians, right, or Palestinian Jews, or just Palestinian. But they were referred to as that by Western cultures and by themselves. Why? Because this land was called Syria Palestina, or the Syrian Governorate of Palestine. The Syrian Governorate of Palestine, right, or the Southern Syrian Governorate of Palestine, which was part of the Ottoman Empire. So regionally, it was called that as a piece of land. It wasn't a country, but they called that for the name of the land. And Jews identified with that because they said, well, we're going to reestablish our homeland in the land that people refer to as Palestine, even though it's not a country, right? Called Palestine. That's the land we're going to. Why? Because the name of the state of Israel had not yet been declared, right? For all you know, we might have reestablished the state and called it Judea or something else. They went with the name Israel. In 1948 when we declared our independence, and in 1947 when the UN partition plan was put to the vote at the United Nations. That's when the name really came up, right? Before that, it was referred to land that would be a Jewish homeland. No name given. And on the map, it said British mandated Palestine. So that was leverage that the world had until 1948. That the Jews had to basically, accept that we didn't have a state reestablished yet. So we just called it, Palestine. And the Jews who lived here called themselves Palestinians. The Arabs who lived here did not call themselves Palestinians. They didn't want anything to do with that name. And you can look up executive committee chairman after PLO member, after PLO leader, after anybody you want. Until after the Khartoum agreement, where the Arab League rejected any negotiation, rejected any cease of war, rejected any peace with Israel, they said the Palestinians will basically be used as a wedge issue, will be used as a political weapon to delegitimize Israel, right? Because they wanted to invent this whole narrative that the Palestinians were here before the Jews, which is complete nonsense. But they wanted to, already from that time, invert the narrative. And they've been doing that increasingly successfully over the decades, which is a huge problem. But it is reality, whether we like it or not. And one way to deal with that reality is to put the narrative back on course. But the point of that is now Palestinians in Gaza, namely Hamas, are losing their leverage against Israel, because say they don't even return the two hostages, which are dead, and they remain in power and they refuse to give up their guns. Do you really think Israel, at this point, after 2 months of waiting after the ceasefire, almost 2 months, do you really think we're in the business now of waiting another 3, 4, 5 months for them to give up their power? I can assure you we're not. We have an election coming up this next year. The Prime Minister wants to be done with this war so he can notch it on his marks as an achievement that he won the war, etc., put it behind him, and move on and hope to get reelected. Whether that happens or not has yet to be seen. The will of the people, etc., etc. But that's a fact. Israel is not going to just sit around and wait for this war to go on forever. The people are sick of the war. Not just because, like, oh, we hate the government. No, there's plenty of people who love the government. There's plenty of people who don't like the government. It doesn't matter. People don't like war here. We don't want the war to go on forever. So we're sick of the war collectively. We'd like it to end. We'd like our men and women to stop having to put themselves in harm's way every day to get rid of a bunch of scumbags who have no business being in power. 448, no Arab would call himself Palestinian to turn. That was just a foreign concept. Exactly. And they don't have the letter P in their language. Arabs can't pronounce the letter. Right. But even if you grant them, here we go. As my uncle said you are his favorite YouTube channel. You are the reason. Okay, you're funny. Am I hopelessly deluded? Okay, how am I hopelessly deluded? Please, feel free to say what you mean. What country? Again, I said Israel. How many cops does it take to screw in a light bulb? I don't know. I don't get your joke. But yeah, people who can't pronounce the letter P, who took the name from a non-Arab nation that gave it the name Palestine, who took the name from previous conquerors of this land, right? It's all very hilarious until the fact is that you realize it's not funny at all, given all the deadliness of it. But it is hilarious that people that call themselves Palestinians can't even say Palestinian when they're speaking English, for the most part. Of course, many Palestinians can say the letter P because they learned to speak English, some of them, even many of them. But yes, in traditional Arabic, there is no letter P. So they either say Palestine or Palestine when they speak English, or they say Palestine or Palestine, right? Because they say either. That's how they actually write it in Arabic, right? As opposed to in English, we write it with a P. But when they speak it, they say it with a B. So that's one thing, right? Another, is they don't have any more leverage because they have no more assets, dead hostages or living ones. So what are they going to do? They're going to try to cling to power. They try to fight as much as they can. They're going to try to get as many dead Palestinians as they can, so that the world attention can once again be on, oh, look at Israel killing innocent people. When that's not the situation at all. The situation is Hamas hiding behind them. Right? So we don't know how many people they're hiding behind in any given context. We just know when there's targets in a building, and we told the two people to get out of the building, and we see people leaving the building. We don't know how many remain in the building that are innocent people. They're being literally held there by their captors, the Hamas, who refuse to let them leave to go to safety. We don't know. They don't tell us. Right? Then when we hit the building, innocent people die, being used literally as human shields. And then what happens? Well, what happens is the world has an outcry. Oh, Israel killed innocent people. No, Hamas killed innocent people by refusing to let the innocent people leave. And then you would say to yourself, well, wait a minute. How does Hamas hide behind people in buildings? If everybody in the building knows to get out, why doesn't the Hamas just leave? So that's the thing. Sometimes they do leave, and all that's destroyed are the weapons. You never hear about those buildings. That's the vast majority of the buildings. Sometimes they don't leave because they're trapped, and they know if they come out of the building, we're going to annihilate them. Because we've got marks on them, we know who they are, etc. So they choose to stay and die. Right? And they think that makes them jihadis or shaheeds. They will go to heaven and get their Virginians or whatever. They're old, angry Virginians who've always loved Israel their whole life. And because of that, we have a situation where you have a lot of dead, innocent people whenever that kind of fighting happens, which is exactly why Hamas needs to be gotten rid of. So this kind of nonsense can end. Hello there, Jinjasaurus. So that is one of the many reasons why Hamas basically has lost all of its leverage. Now, you might think, what are you talking about? Israel hasn't won anything. All they've done is kill innocent women and children. Israel's in control of half of Gaza right now. So we want to talk, and they controlled 80% of it before the ceasefire went into effect. If you think, I mean, despite the fact that Hamas is clearly rearming, we know they are rearming, resupplying, retraining, everything. We know they're getting ready to fight again. But if you think that they are going to just, I don't know, go gently into that sweet night, and if you think that Israel cannot defeat Hamas kinetically in a brutal firefight and take back all of that land very quickly again, plus all the rest of it, if we so choose, I don't know what to tell you. You're kind of deluding yourself, right? You're not really living in reality if you don't understand that Israel has the upper hand kinetically, like big time. And we are fighting against an irregular force that does not observe the, right? They need to bear that in mind. It's very important that they understand. They don't just get to violate the Geneva Conventions and expect us to observe them forever. But technically, yes, Israel observes the Geneva Convention even against Hamas. In fact, we go above and beyond the Geneva Convention in terms of the rights we give them and everything else, right? Protections and all that when they're in our captivity. But for people to expect that Israel will just forever treat, the Hamas people like some kind of special eggs that we have to be careful not to break, you're very wrong. It's just not going to happen. Like, these people that we're fighting are very much in the line of fire at this point, and we are very much going to make them feel that and pay the price. They are going to lose this kinetic fight. There is no doubt about it. They've already lost the kinetic fight. It is going to be completed onto them, whether they do it willfully or not. Like, they agreed to surrender. The fact that they haven't surrendered yet is a violation of the ceasefire and is a green light for Israel to, frankly, go in and wipe them out, which is something that Trump said from the very beginning of all this, and has said it multiple times, that he would back Israel if they decide to go in and wipe them out, if the Hamas does not live up to the plan. And clearly, Hamas is not living up to the plan. They violated the ceasefire many times. If you want to say, oh, Israel violated it first, sure, believe whatever you want. It's completely false and provably so, but believe what you want. Let me put it this way. Does it matter? Does it matter? Hamas agreed to surrender. They agreed to give up all the prisoners, the hostages. They don't have any leverage left. So does it matter? Think about that. Give me 1 second. Right? They have zero leverage. So what can they do? They can surrender, like they're supposed to, or give up power and walk away, like they're supposed to. If they don't reject violence, but if they do reject violence, they can stay. Either way, they have to give up power, which is effectively the same as surrendering, without having to make Israel arrest all of 20,000 of them and put them in prison. We don't even want to do that. We just want them to disband, give up their guns, and walk away from power, and let somebody else, the Palestinian Jews, hopefully, eventually run Gaza. In the meantime, hopefully some international force, whatever, will administer it. That's according to the plan. The reality is that's probably not going to happen. The reality is what's probably going to happen is Israel is going to have to re-enter the areas of Gaza that we don't control anymore because we gave it up for the ceasefire. We're going to have to eradicate Hamas wherever they are. It's going to be very ugly. There's probably going to be a lot more deaths of civilian to non-civilian or combatants to non-combatant. The ratio will probably increase a little bit. We might lose that coveted 2-to-1 ratio, if you want to call it that. I say coveted only from an intellectual point of view, not from any other point of view, because any single person that dies, especially if they're innocent, is tragic. Is tragedy. It is very terrible. I know you can say, well, it doesn't fit the definition of Greek tragedy. I don't care. You know what I mean. It's an awful, terrible thing when people die in war. Whether they're good guys or bad guys, I still feel for them. Even if I hate them and they're my enemy, I still feel for them because there's a reason they became like that. So I feel that they had a life that led them to those decisions. Even if I completely disagree with everything they want to do, and that I think they're even pure evil. Right? My heart is still human. I still have compassion for my fellow man. And I hope people around the world always will have compassion, even for their enemies. That doesn't mean we can't. Whoever wrote that about Russian babies, you're being silly now. No babies in Russia don't do that. But fun. I guess it's a fun fake fact. So again, keep in mind, what does Hamas have? No leverage. What is likely to happen? More war until the Hamas is gone. What else is likely to happen? Well, the United States, like I said, at some point is probably going to start messing around with this idea of cutting military aid to Israel, which Israelis have said for a long time. Go ahead, cut it, please. We don't want it. It's just leverage over us that we don't want and we don't need. Thank you very much. We do appreciate all the aid that we've received, even though it's not money in a bank account. Like, it's literally just a discount on shopping. And we go above and beyond those items and pay full price on everything to that. And it's money to be spent on Russian and Chinese goods to reverse engineer them and share the intelligence with America, which Israel does all the time. That saves America a lot of money and time, etc., etc., etc. But when America even tinkers with this idea, saying America stops sending money to Israel, okay, which, again, they don't send us a check, but call it that if you want. They stop the military aid to Israel. Okay. That's like less than 1% of Israel's GDP. But nevertheless, Israel is going to want to then be able to buy weapons from the best dealer, not just America. Guess what? America is not necessarily the best dealer. Now, you may think that America is the best dealer because they have the best platforms, etc., etc. Part of that is true, but part of that is also true because of Israel's contributions to America's technology. So if Israel decides, you know what, we've had a great relationship with America, we love America, but they want to sell us products which we know we can get at a better rate and better quality, or the same quality, at least go explore those options. That means America will lose leverage over Israel significantly. And yes, Israel needs America's support, America's friendship, whatever you want to call it, politically, at like the UN and stuff. But also, if Israel is doing deals with Russia and China, it will put Israel in a good place at the UN, arguably better than it's been for the past 77 years, when the West has been backing Israel and all the dictators and corrupt bastards have been backing each other and castigating Israel. I'm not saying Israel should join the League of Rapscallions. I hope they don't. I hope we don't. But Russia has a permanent vote and a veto vote. China has a permanent seat at the UN Security Council and a veto vote. That's 2, which is more than the U.S. The U.S. alone is 1 vote, able to veto bills against Israel. The other seats on the Security Council are not a sure thing in terms of supporting. Great Britain have gone against Israel many times. They are not reliable partners in that sense. They're reliable partners in a different sense, like sharing intelligence and everything else. But to say that America's leverage over Israel is the most important thing for Israel, it really demonstrates a line of thinking that doesn't understand the realpolitik. It's a very complicated relationship, and it is very mutually beneficial for Israel and America to invest in each other, which we literally do. And that's one of the reasons it are such great allies. The main underlying reason is our shared common values. And our shared common values are far more important than any amount of money. Right? We are a group of people that support democracy, freedom of speech, freedom of religion, etc., etc. So that matters more than all the military aid you can throw at the wall to see which one sticks. And that ultimately is why the United States, is not likely to cut military aid to Israel anytime soon. Because even the most anti-Israel member of Congress realizes that it's in America's interest to be an ally of Israel. Now, I know there are the crazy, crazy ones, like AOC and her friend Rashida Tlaib and all kooks, and Ilhan Omar. Of course they're going to vote for anything that's anti-Israel because they're idiots. They don't mind harming the United States. They want to harm the United States. Maybe AOC doesn't want to, and she's just an ignorant, naive idiot. That I can believe that. Okay, on this issue, I know she's not. I don't think she's a complete ignorant, naive idiot on everything. But when it comes to Israel, yeah, she's a Kool-Aid drinker, right? She's clearly in the camp of the people drinking the Kool-Aid. She's making the decisions that caricature her and they characterize her actions as a Kool-Aid drinker. She's an anti-Israel Kool-Aid drinker. And her friends, Rashida Tlaib, Ilhan Omar, and their lot, the Quad, or whatever they call themselves, they're completely Hamas supporters. And in my opinion, by supporting Hamas, they should be at least brought under investigation. That's what I think. Whatever else happens, happens. But, like, I don't care if you're a member of Congress, whatever you want. There is evidence that these people have supported groups like Hamas to Congress. That means that they were private citizens engaged in the support of terrorism and a terrorist group at a time when that group was considered terrorists by the United States. Therefore, they should be investigated and possibly face other consequences. That's what I think about that. But yeah, for the meantime, the United States is not going to want to give up its leverage over Israel. And it's barely any leverage. Remember, it's less than 1% of Israel's economy is that military aid amount. Right? Israel has like a $500 billion a year economy. $4 billion isn't nothing. Last year when they made a huge exception and added whatever it was, 20, 30 billion, some huge amount, was a one-time thing because of the situation that Israel wanted to buy more goods. It wasn't free money. Israel bought those goods. Again, it's a discount on the shopping list. It doesn't mean that we don't spend more than that money. We do, and it's not discounted. But even $30 billion one time out of an economy of 500 billion per year is not going to stop us. It happened once, that's it. It didn't happen. It doesn't happen this year, right? That didn't never happen before. It's not likely to happen, especially if America wants to cut back, which if it does, loses America a lot of leverage that America wants to have. So don't go telling me the nonsense about, oh, America, is the lifeline for Israel. Without America, Israel wouldn't exist. First of all, that's just historically not true. 1948, 1956, 1967, all those wars Israel fought, as well as other ongoing, Cold War situations like the Fedayeen stuff and all that stuff. Basically, from 1948 to 1967, Israel defended itself without the help of the United States. Yes, from 1961, they started receiving a Skyhawk. Wow. Yeah, but it wasn't until after the Six-Day War that Israel really got material support of any significance from the United States. Until then, it had been Czechoslovakia at first, right after the Declaration of Independence, and even before then, Czechoslovakia was one of the main countries helping the Jews smuggle weapons into the British Mandated Palestine. And immediately Israel, strengthened that relationship and also began building relationships with countries like France and the UK and other places. And France was Israel's first significant military supplier. They were the first country that helped Israel really build up its arsenal, like significantly. And it really didn't happen until after the War of Independence, because during the War of Independence, Israel basically had almost no weapons. It was ridiculous. One gun, one rifle for every 4 soldiers in the field. That's just crazy. And the Arabs had endless supplies and British officers and just everything that you could possibly imagine, right? Countries wealthy with oil. And they had massive amounts of people, right? They had everything they needed to win the war, and yet they lost the war. Israel won the war. So, all right. Well, it means that from 1948 till 7, Israel did not depend on American aid. And we still won the wars. A country that's much stronger than it was in 1967, until we began receiving help from America. We have much more arsenal now. Some people say we have nuclear weapons, which, by the way, some people say we got from the French. Like they helped us get that technology, right? And also South Africa played a role, right? In terms of testing and all this other stuff. Do you really think Israel needs America's help materially to continue surviving in a region that Israel is literally considered and called the military superpower, at least for now? Sure, things can change. Turkey could embolden itself and break from NATO and do crazy stuff, whatever. NATO has a lot of firepower. We get it. And NATO's a member of NATO. Turkey's a member of NATO. We get it. Turkey has a huge amount of firepower. They could attack Israel. They could do a lot of damage. They're not likely to do that. They may, but they're not likely to, because it would be suicide. Because if NATO sees that Turkey is unprovoked and attacking Israel for no reason, they won't allow Turkey to keep doing that. There will be consequences for Turkey. That's just one example. So, yeah, Israel can continue fighting and winning even without America's help. It would be great, and it would be best, in my opinion, if Israel kept getting America to work with Israel and to help each other as we do, because it's good for the West, it's good for the world. But if America chooses to say, you know what, all those relationships that the United States built since World War II, we're just going to throw them out the window, that's America's choice. It's not the choice that I would choose. But I've always said, doesn't matter who the president is, they're all transactional. Trump is especially transactional. And if he ever sees an opportunity to do something for himself with the United States that he thinks is better than the previous or status quo or the current status quo, he'll do it. Even if it's not good for their ally, he'll do it. And that includes doing something that might be not good for Israel. He would do it if he saw it beneficial to the United States or to himself, and he thought it overrode the value, right? Because whether you like Trump or not, whether you think he's smart or not, you have to understand, you have to accept at least, he may suck at getting details right. He may be terrible at little details, but he understands the big picture on some things. He understands the difference between right and wrong on some things, whether you like him or not. And he knows the difference between right and wrong on some things. Like he knows Hamas is bad. He knows Hamas is, compared to Israel, Hamas is bad, and compared to Hamas, Israel is good. Okay? He understands that. Does that mean he'll make the right decision? Time will tell. But so far, he has made the right decisions in this area, and I have confidence that he will remain, making the right decisions, at least for now. Is everything all right? That's a deep question, Kalasani. You know what? Or Kushlasani? It's a very deep question to ask something. Is everything all right? Like, what is everything? Like, in the entire universe, is everything all right? No. I'm living in a country where there's a war. There's a lot of people suffering for many different reasons. Unemployment, hunger, families torn apart, families suffering, injuries, you name it, people dying. No, not everything is all right. But as a whole, is Israel doing well compared to its neighbors? Yeah. But that's not, is everything all right? That's just about where my location is, right? What happens, skate boy? I don't know. What happened to you? King Trump forever, time raider. Why would you want a guy forever to be in office when he's a president? Are you an American? Like an American, like the fact that we change leaders. We don't want to have the same leader in office for 20 years, right? We had FDR in office for 4 terms. Thank you, enough. After that, America passed a law that said no presidents for more than 2 terms. Right? Even that, he'll be the oldest person in office by the time he leaves the presidency if he survives the full 4 years. Wouldn't you like to have somebody maybe younger and just as capable, who is maybe, and I say younger, like we don't need like some 20 or whatever. It can't be 20. We don't need necessarily somebody who's 45 years old, right? But it wouldn't hurt to have somebody in their 40s or 50s or even 60s compared to somebody in their late 70s, early 80s. I'm just saying, like it's about time that politics makes way for younger blood. And I understand that people want Trump forever and all that. You're being unrealistic. He's not going to be president forever. Okay, that's not how the American political system works. You think it is? Got another thing coming. Anyway, that's gonna do it for now, folks. Been on there a little while. I hope you've enjoyed. If you could, please subscribe or like the video or smash the whatever buttons to share this thing and leave comments. That would really mean a lot to me. I'd appreciate it. I think we just got over 500 subs yesterday. So I'm delighted for that. Thank you very much. You've been watching the post 500 subs live stream, or one of them. Um, you know, I'm obviously not doing this for monetization, given that I've been doing this for many years. Like posting videos on my YouTube channel, and it's never gotten past 500 users. I've never put any effort into it. But I'd like to reach more users, just because it would be nice to get my thoughts and words out and my analysis out, because I actually have studied this stuff for a long time and lived it for a long time and have written about it and been in published books and all this kind of stuff, newspapers and TV shows and whatever. So I'd very much appreciate it if you would do me the huge favor of subscribing if you like my content, liking it, leaving a comment, sharing it, and hit that notification bell so that you know the next time I do one of these. And again, once again, to everybody in the United States or every American, wherever you are in the world, or anybody who's celebrating Happy Thanksgiving, I bid you a Happy Thanksgiving today. Fantastic Black Friday tomorrow, and an awesome holiday shopping weekend. It's Cyber Monday, and a great entrance into the holiday shopping season bonanza. So, yeehaw. I'll catch you guys later. Bro recording on a Nokia flip phone. That's very funny. This phone, why? Is it because I'm moving it? Hey, beaches. It's a Samsung thing. I don't even know what it's called. It's some kind of a Samsung phone. But man, I remember those Nokia flip phones. They were funny. All right, folks, that's going to do it for now. Till the next one. I hope you've all enjoyed the jingly jangly moving of my camera. That was not intentional. I didn't realize I was doing that. Next time I'll put it down as you normally do. And let it stay in one place when I'm not walking. All right, folks, take care. Shalom from Israel. Peace.